We could begin with a bow, take a great posture, your best posture of the day, wake your body up, and then relax. It's not rigid. Discipline is joy, as we say in Buddhism. And with a bow, give it away with respect to everyone, everywhere. Even your crazy uncle. So, welcome back to The Mindful Life with Waylon Lewis. My name is Waylon Lewis, and I'm coming to you from Boulder, Colorado, with my snoring half-hound right next to me, Redford. And I'd like to thank my sponsor, Noom. Wonderful company. Thank you so much. We only work with mindful sponsors. We're honored to support their great work. And if you support them, you support us. Noom. N-O-O-M. Finally, I'm supposed to say this at the end, but I want to say it now because it's super helpful and you are as much a part of this show if it's any good or at all helpful as I am, or certainly as Snoring Redford is. Subscribe, share, review, comment, any action you take in getting this out there. Put a story up, as many of you do. Thank you so much on Instagram. But subscribing on the podcast is huge. elephantjournal.com/podcast, elephantjournal.com/talkshow. Bookmark those. Thank you so much. So today I want to talk about something that, is one of the great mysteries of life, right? Relationships. And I want to first put in a little caveat. We've already talked about that in the blockbuster hit of a podcast I did, which was entitled, Well, What Do You Think? Something like that. And I'm saying that sarcastically because not that many people listened to it or watched it, perhaps because it's not a big, sexy title. But I would love it if some of you checked it out because it's a fundamental principle in all these podcasts or videos, which is I'm just an idiot talking in a room. It sounds like, what's that Hugh Grant scene with Julia Roberts? I'm just a girl telling a boy that I love him. I'm just an idiot in a room doing a podcast or a video or both, sharing my personal experience, which is something you could do, and maybe you do with your friends. Do get it? And then I am also reflecting on my experience in my study with Dharma, with Buddhism, which is a good anchor for me in terms of the present moment, in terms of decency, in terms of being a benefit, service, in terms of vision or view. Waking up in the morning, however I'm feeling, I come back to meditation, the present moment, and to wanting to be of service. So that's where I'm coming from, not from some place of wisdom. I really don't want to belong to the class of Instagram influencers or personalities on TV of wannabe sort of self-help figures. I don't care if anyone, it always feels good to get appreciation, but I don't particularly care. I'm honestly not doing this for me. I'm doing this to share what was such a gift in my life, which was the Dharma. And Dharma literally means truth. And the coolest thing about the Dharma is there's no need for you to become Buddhist. It's not a cult. There's nowhere to sign your credit card. As the Dalai Lama said, don't become Buddhist when he was asked about it. He said, get into your own thing more fully and properly. And Trungpa Rinpoche, my parents' teacher, said basically the same thing. He said, go buy a suit in a secondhand shop. Go buy some china. Learn some table manners. Get into your own culture, whatever that culture is, and find the goodness within it. You don't need necessarily to go seek elsewhere and appropriate other cultures that you find more enlightened. That can be healthy, and mixing is not always appropriating, it's sharing. Okay, coming back to the main point. So we've had a couple audience questions, and I want to encourage all of you to keep sending them in. DM on Instagram, review, comment. We will answer them. We really literally do half our podcasts and videos now based on questions. So this one comes from, we're not going to say the name. Could you do one on breakups and letting go? Struggling with the end of a year relationship, and I just want to reach out, but no, I shouldn't. Reach back out to the person she is parting ways with. So that really is talking about attachment, right? You have your right hand, you have your left hand, one of those is you. You get together, you're still separate hands, but you're making love in life and beneath the sheets, all that. And then at some point, if you break up, the two hands kind of separate, and you're no longer attached, right? You're no longer connected, but you still miss, you still feel that fit. So I actually followed up with this person because I'm not a big fan of giving it, WebMDing people's situations, right? I need to know a lot of specifics so I can be helpful. Just general advice on a general question I don't think is that accurate or helpful. But so I followed up with this person, but maybe we don't have the screenshot of that. We don't. But basically, this is a situation where I think it's wonderful to remember the good times. It's also wonderful to remember the bad times or the hard times so that you don't sort of live a candy-colored nostalgic view of your life in rewind. So you remember and you learn from the hard times and the bad times, right? You don't ignore them and just remember, running through the fields, holding hands, the fields and meadows and laughing, ha ha, everything was heaven. I miss that so much. Yeah, but there was a reason you broke up. There was a reason he or she broke up with you. Things are hard, right? Whether it's an argument about the dishes, we'll get to that more. Whatever it was, you came across bridges that you couldn't cross. So, that comes back, first of all, to open communication about hard things. We've talked about that a lot, is being willing to have vulnerable, messy conversations about hard things, to be brave enough to say, it's in my mind now, so I'll just talk about it. Hey, why do you wear 5 layers of foundation on your face if you're not comfortable with that, right? Even saying that in a video or podcast makes me feel uncomfortable because maybe one of you out there does wear a lot of foundation and you don't want to feel judged and all that. So if we care about someone, we don't want to say something where we're judging or being mean or judgmental, right? But we still might be bugged by it. So then instead of saying it, we're bugged by it, and then we're irritated at the person for not somehow magically picking it up out of the ether, but then we're irritated with ourselves and guilty because we're being a jerk towards someone we care about and we love, perhaps. At the very least, we care about them. So now you're in this whole knotted tangle of messiness, and then you're like, why am I so confused and judgmental and guilty? I'm such a mess. I could have just said something. I'm so stupid. I'm so guilty. I'm so judgmental. And it's just, dominoes, right? Instead of just saying, you know what? Here's what we do in meditation. Oh, Trungpa Rinpoche literally in his meditation instruction, he says, you could think about murdering someone, or you could think about, for some reason he says lemonade. You could think about lemonade and cookies. I think most of us would say milk and cookies. Lemonade and cookies is sort of weird. Probably a cultural thing. But it doesn't matter what you think about. It really is a thought. Stop being so holding your thoughts so tightly. Oh my God, I had a thought about something bad. Oh my God, I had a thought about something good. Oh my God, I'm guilty. Oh my God, I'm judgmental. Oh my God, that person is lazy. Oh, just as William Blake said, kiss the joy as it flies. Kiss the guilt as it flies. We've talked about regret, I think, before. Guilt is, right, Vanessa? It's good to feel guilty and regret when you make a mistake and learn from it. But you don't need to dwell in it forever. You just move on. So you learn from it, but you don't dwell in it. You don't ignore it, and you don't dwell in it. Most of us ignore things, we suppress it, or we dwell in it. We sink in it, right? It does no good to self-flagellate yourself. That's a beautiful sentence. Can I edit that sentence? It does no good to flagellate yourself for being a jerk. But it's actually pretty bad, or toxic even, to ignore that you were a jerk, right? So the basic lesson beneath all of this is meditate. Take a good posture. Dedicate yourself with a bow to being a benefit to all sentient beings, which includes yourself. It doesn't exclude yourself. Find your breath in and out with your eyes open. You're not trying to shut anything out. When you have a thought, lemonade and cookies or murder, you're just like, oh, I'm thinking. Oh, I'm thinking. And then return your attention to the breath. And that will train your mind to notice and be aware and not suppress. And then return to the breath. Have a light touch. We all can think of someone who has a light touch, who has a sense of humor, even about sad times or hard times. That is a beautiful quality that we actually all have, not just when we've had one, big pint of Guinness, right? So, how do you let go? How do you break up? I mean, fundamentally, it comes down to who is the person? Are they nurturing the best part of yourself? Not the best self that you're living on Instagram, like traveling 180 countries and rocking out, I didn't actually swear there. I just said rocking out. So we're still PG. But your fundamentally decent, good self that is caring and sweet and willing to be brave enough to be vulnerable, to be genuine. I've had relationships, thankfully, where people have done that. They said, you know what, Waylon, that weird environmentalism thing you have going, that's the best part of you. You should really stop hiding that. Like, go with it. A lady who helped found Elephant Journal, actually, I think, I'm so old now, 17 years ago, actually said that to me, and it really changed the direction of my life. She could have said, the part of you that is using toxic chemicals to clean the dash and the tires of your car, that's the best part of you. You should value your car more. And I could have gone a different direction. So, if you're in a relationship with someone who is nurturing and kind and fun and decent and fun in bed and all these different things, there's probably going to be some problems. News at 11. And if you're like 27 or something, maybe you should use that as an opportunity to like break up, go fool around in some bars, do the young thing, because you can really only do that once. But if that person is good, even if you're 27, you probably want to say, wow, this is a valuable, worthwhile thing. And maybe at the very worst, I'm having a pretty wonderful time sometimes, and I want to explore it. So if it's a decent person, I'm always saying this to girlfriends of mine, there's this thing where, we all talk about wanting to be with a decent thinking, I just wrote an Instagram post about this recently, but like a thoughtful, intellectually caring person. But then those people arise in your life, and maybe because they don't have a jawline like Tom Cruise or whatever, you don't look at them. And I'm not saying you need to be with people you're not attracted to, but like give people a second glance who are maybe not peacocks, who are not showy, So the kitchen sink thing, though, is hard. When you see someone throwing their underwear on the floor or wearing 4 layers of foundation, or, leaving their cornflakes in the sink and it's dried and it started molding and it's been there like 2 weeks, and you're like, Jesus H. Christ, like what part of your brain is saying, when are you going to clean that? Like, I do that in my sink. So there's a part of my brain, I'm like, I'm going to do that later. When is later exactly, Later hasn't been for 2 weeks. The cornflakes are still there. The flies are even ignoring it. They've eaten everything they can. So, it's actually your fault if you're seeing the dishes in the sink and you're not saying something. Because it's so uncomfortable. It's my fault if I'm seeing someone shave their eyebrows and paint them back on, and I don't like that, and I don't want to be judgmental, so I don't say it, but I guilt trip myself, but then I'm not attracted to them, or I'm weirdly irritated in inappropriate moments for nothing because I have this other irritation that I'm not bold enough to communicate. So the bottom line is you have to just say, look, whether it's PC or not, I have to be willing to just say what comes up. And it just is a little moment of bravery. There's this beautiful quote out there that says, all it takes is 20 seconds of bravery, of being willing to feel uncomfortable. So you say, you know what, Vanessa's my producer here, my friend. If there's something that bugged me, I'm looking at her, she's perfect, but if there was something that bugged me about who she was, I think I have said this to you actually. Vanessa, for many years, I don't feel like you do it anymore, so I'm going to take full credit. She would sort of mumble and she would kind of like half say a sentence, and then she would kind of drift. She wouldn't say the whole sentence, but just kind of end. You wouldn't really be able to hear it. And I was like, was this you or someone else? Okay, just say it was a sort of positive irritation, right? I wasn't saying, shut up. I was saying, I want to hear you more. I want to hear what you have to say. So that's such a positive criticism that makes me look vaguely good. But, I hope. But, it's good to say those, but that's still uncomfortable to be serious, to say to a friend, because they could be like, that's super sensitive thing to hear and to say, and that could be poking them in a sensitive spot. So you just bring it back to relationships, you have to be willing to say those things. And in terms of letting go, you have to remember why you broke up, and hopefully you really both tried to work it out. If you both tried to work it out, then your job, once you're separated and you're missing them and you want to get back together, but maybe it's not good for you, is to remember why you broke up, to honor that you both tried, and to make friends with yourself being alone. A lot of us, particularly if we're sort of serial monogamous, we're very uncomfortable being alone. And often serial monogamists, attract lots of people asking them out immediately. It's really good to just say, you know what, I'm taking some me time. And not just because you don't actually like the people asking that much, but even saying, I'm taking me time to the people you do like. They'll still be around, probably, later on, when you're in a good space to actually honor yourself in that relationship. So we're covering a lot of different little subjects, but basically we're talking about, should I stay or should I go? Why should you stay? Messy dishes, underwear on the floor, that kind of stuff, those are things you need to take responsibility for communicating about, even if it's not your problem. Don't just clean up for them if it bugs you, Don't just not say anything if it bugs you. Have an uncomfortable conversation. I had a lovely, wonderful human being of a girlfriend many years ago who, I don't know what her experience had been growing up, but was incredibly careful is a strange word, careful, uptight in in bed. She was much more relaxed and fun and all this in life. So at some point I said, hey, what's going on there? Should we communicate more while we're together in bed? And she cried and she got mad and we went for a walk in the park. And then from then on, we talked during sex. We communicated. What would you like? What's fun? What's good? Do you like that? And it seemed sort of silly and kind of clunky, right? Awkward. But it actually, I remember after the first time, and I know this is all private, but I'm being so vague, she said, wow, that was so great. I actually could communicate. I don't mean she was saying I was great or anything like that. She was saying the experience of being present and engaged and respected and listened to and honored, instead of just sort of let's get through it, was very different. So it's not that hard. We just have to be willing to be clunky with each other. Have we covered everything? I'll look at one or two more of these questions. We had a bunch around sort of letting go, breaking up. Oh, here's a great one. I think I've already covered most of it, but someone, this guy's habits were stressing her out. She wasn't that attracted. She felt anxiety and guilt because he's a totally good person. She felt like she was using him. And then, she also felt afraid of being alone and maybe not meeting anyone, quote unquote, better or different. So she also had heartache and anxiety around using him again, or maybe her fear of being alone. So that's I think where I was talking about the meditation. We can question ourselves, which is healthy sometimes, but can be taken to a self-guilting extreme. And it's not guilt that actually helps. It's good to feel guilty and learn from something and improve. But if we're just trying to hate on ourselves for daring to feel like maybe we're not that attractive to someone, it's okay to listen to yourself. So I think I've covered everything here. Hope that was vaguely helpful. And if it wasn't, as always, go read Pema Chodron. Thank you so much. We could end with a bow, take a good posture, and with respect and appreciation, give it away to everyone, everywhere.